Department of Justice has also said that it expects to...
Crypto jerk news. I'm over here in the bunker, ready for this crypto apocalypse, for whenever they try to come after all of us, and I'm the only YouTuber left on YouTube talking about crypto. So, let's see what the hell these jerks are talking about today on the mainstream media, CNBC and all that, you know, We'll see what they got over here.
To wrap up its broad antitrust investigation into tech sometime next year, whether that's before or after the election remains to be seen. Big
comply with it, but I'm wondering what kind of pressure you think that California law is going to put on Capitol Hill to pass some federal legislation, and what kind of conversation you expect there.
Yeah, we did see a sort of last-minute flurry of discussion on Capitol Hill over a federal privacy law. The House Energy and Commerce Committee put out a discussion draft of bipartisan legislation that they felt could try to address some of the major issues around what are the consumers' rights, right? The consumer should have an ability to access their information, to delete information, to debate information that they feel is incorrect. But the real thorny issues around preemption and around whether consumers should have a right to individually sue these companies, those issues have been sidelined, and they remain the ideological logjam on Capitol Hill around getting some of this legislation across the finish line.
It's really interesting. Elon, thank you for that. Elon Mui talking about regulatory risk for tech next year. Joining us at the table, Greycroft Partners co-founder, managing director Alan Patrikoff is here. Alan, happy New Year to you. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Elon's piece makes you wonder what tech stocks might have done if there had been no regulatory risk.
That's an interesting question. I don't think it's going to be solved as quickly as Elon says. I mean, it took, 10 years for Microsoft to be resolved. It took 10 or 12 years for IBM. I don't remember how many years for AT&T. I mean, this is a long process, but I'm very supportive of it, frankly.
But do you think that all of these regulatory conversations, whether it's the antitrust threat or the privacy regulation, or the question of who's liable for the content that is being served on these platforms, do you think that's going to impact how investors, either in the private or public markets, approach this? I mean, for you as a VC investor, would you be more wary of a startup that could be really damaged by regulation in this area?
Honestly, I don't think we're going to worry that much about it as a specific issue, but I think we as consumers, we as people who are participating, we are 90% of our lives dependent on Google, should be concerned about the fact that we are addicted to these services that we cannot get off. I mean, I said on this program when Facebook went public, it was a utility, and it's still a utility, and certainly Google's utility, and utilities should have some kind of regulations. I personally believe, and I think they've now broken up, they bifurcated the issues. I believe that Congress is now going after Google and Apple, and the FTC is taking on Amazon and Facebook, and so that's progress. But this is going to take, I think, I wish I could be optimistic and say it's going to happen before the election, but I think it's going to go on.
Videos here, and they won't have to worry about white man. You know, that old guy that was sitting up there with those Mexican chicks that they had imported. All right, so you go and get on cable, and then you got the videos and everything, you know?
So what brings you to Dubai?
Oh, I'm just filming here for a couple of days.
What's that?
Oh, yes! Yusuf! Where are you taking us?
Those are those.
Tech in Focus is the best performing S&P sector of 2019, up over 45% year to date. But as 2020 approaches, should investors expect more room to run for these names? Joining us now with their insights, LJH Advisors Managing Director Larry Haverty and Jefferies Managing Director and Senior Tech Analyst Brent Thill. Larry, let's start with you. My question for you as you look at Facebook and Google in particular, will we start to see a real impact from all of the regulatory questions that have really been in focus this year but haven't started to hit results yet?
Well, I think both of the companies have seen the activities of the regulators, Google on a more piecemeal basis, I think, than than Facebook. They've been periodically making fines or paying fines in various jurisdictions. And I think with both of the companies, the regulation is more or less a sideshow because at the end of the day, the thing that has propelled these stocks is threefold. One, it's really the best way for advertisers to reach consumers, and digital advertising is now over 50%, and I think it's probably going to stop somewhere at 65%. So that's a powerful thing. The second is the marginal profitability model. These people aren't paying for content. And when you get high revenue growth, which you're getting, and basically very little marginal cost, the free cash flow ramifications are very, very compelling. I think the thing that both of these companies ought to do is pay a dividend. I think the pileup of cash is increasingly becoming untenable, and they need to do what Apple did a few years ago and distribute some of it to the shareholders. But I just think the regulation, I pay attention to it, but it's a sideshow, and I think if you were to break these companies up, the sum of the parts...
So, yeah, these motherfuckers, as usual, they ain't talking about shit. They ain't never had nothing to talk about. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below in the motherfucking video, jerk.
Hello, Moto.